We now hand over to Mawlana Ahmad to commence. Mawlana, you can go ahead and commence your presentation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I start, just want to confirm and test if the sound is clear. The sound is good.
Jay, it's good.
نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال الله تبارك وتعالى إن الله يحب التوابين ويحب المتطهرين. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الطهور شطر الإيمان أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Respected listeners, welcome to this program. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you at this time for joining in to gain some beneficial knowledge and such knowledge that will be of extreme use to you in this world as well as the akhirah, inshallah. Today our discussion will be revolving around at-tahara, ritual purity. Now we all know how important tahara is. We learn from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at-tahuru shatrul iman. But before we translate this hadith, the ayah that I have recited at the beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah loves those who repent. Inna Allah yuhibbut tawwabin wa yuhibbul mutatahhirin. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves those that are extremely conscious of their purity. Therefore, one should always remember that purity is something very, very vital and important when it comes to deen, when it comes to Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said that cleanliness is half of faith. And we all know that cleanliness is a means to other deeni worships and activities. Like we learn from the hadith that tahara is a key to salah and a salah is a key to Jannah. Thus, if a person is conscious of his or her tahara, then the other acts of worship will be facilitated or made easy to practice upon also, inshallah. So there's different types of impurities. So we say here, or it's written here, there are fundamentally two types of impurity. The first one is the ritual impurity. Now this sounds like a very, very different term that maybe some of us are not aware of, but ritual impurity merely means a kind of an intrinsic, or we can say metaphysical impurity, wherein you are not physically impure, but there is a situation where you are not pure within. So for example, if a person needs to make a wudu, a ghusl, that person, him or herself, is pure from the outside, meaning there's no impurity on that person. However, that person is in need of a ritual purity. So when one is ritually impure, we will discuss that also. So there's two types. One is a minor ritual impurity, meaning that person is merely required to make wudu. That person is merely required to make wudu. The second time is the major impurity, wherein that person, him or herself, is not physically impure but ritually impure. As a result, that person is required to make ghusl. Then we talk of the normal physical impurity, example, urine, stool, blood, maybe vomit that had come out, which was a mouthful. These are impurities that are physical. So we're going to discuss around these two types of impurities and how to merely cleanse yourself from the ritual impurity to become ritually pure, so that a person can obviously make his or her ibadat correctly and so forth. And likewise, to clean the physical impurities, so that that also assists in aid in fulfilling your daily tasks and worships. But before we go on to ritual impurities and how to make wudu and ghusl and so forth, this is something very, very important that we need to discuss with regards to istinja. Now, as we know, that istinja is something that we've all learned, we've all studied from young days, and sometimes we may have missed few important aspects with regards to it. But istinja, as it's becoming more and more manifest in the world today, is something that is very, very vital. And this is like the start of your cleanliness. When a person goes to relieve his or herself, then it is necessary to cleanse the private part after passing urine or stool. But you can't just cleanse it anyhow or any way. Rather, the Sharia has taught us the best method of how to cleanse oneself, be it male or female, be it urine or stool, how to cleanse oneself from passing urine or stool. But before cleansing oneself, ensure that the urine drops have exited the urinary tract by waiting a while, by coughing, etc., basically according to one's habit. We learn from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to the effect that once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he went to a graveyard, and in that graveyard he spoke about two people, and he said that these two people are being punished severely for an action that they have done or for actions that they have done, but they deemed it to be insignificant, or they deemed it to be not so serious, but rather it's very, very serious in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this will bring much punishment for them. And he spoke about one which we're not going to talk about too much, which was a tail carrier, but the other one was not conscious when it came to passing urine and thereafter clearing the urine drops. Why is this such a problem? Because if the urine continues to come out, that person cannot make wudu, or that person's clothing, underwear, etc. can become soiled. As a result, that person's salah is incorrect. And if a person's salah is incorrect, we all know that person's deen is incorrect. Thus, it is vital, it's important that for a male, especially, as well as a female, no doubt, but this is more applicable to males, that after urinating, don't rush to get off the toilet. Rather, ensure that all the urine drops have exited the urinary tract by waiting a while, coughing, and doing other things. You can find out from doctors, urologists, or even mere ulama what good ways to rid the person of any urine. Thereafter, a person can then make istinja. So after the urine has come out, then it's preferable to wipe, then wash with water, or the other way around, to wash with water and then to wipe. But again, making sure that all the urine has come out. Many times people are in a rush. Many times also children, we need to inculcate in them from small that they should bring this into their life, that I need to wait for my urine to come out completely before I start washing, and then I wash. This will bring good habits into a person's life. If you have not been doing so, then it's important to start doing so immediately. When it comes to stool, then a person should use toilet paper nowadays 3 times, but if the toilet paper is unavailable, there's no harm in that, although it is better. At least 3 times. You can use it more, you can use it less, no problem. But it's preferable, as you can see the order given here from point number 1, from the front towards the back, then from the back towards the front, and from the front towards the back. But you can do it anyway, as long as you don't soil more parts. Meaning that, yes, there's certain areas that are soiled, there's certain areas that are filthy, no doubt, but we do not want to spread that filth further, because it becomes problematic, number 1, and number 2, you have more places to clean. So the least a person can spread the filth, the better. Then a person should wash with water until everything is removed. So therefore, it is again preferable after washing with water again to wipe with toilet paper to ensure that everything is removed. Now let's put a scenario forward. A person went to the toilet, that person urinated, washed properly, waited for everything to come out, washed properly, and then a person went to relieve oneself, defecate. As a result, a person removed everything. Now a person washed. Now a person is ready and is clean. But there's certain etiquettes that a person should remember whilst making istinja. Firstly, do not expose your body or your private parts in front of others. Therefore, the ulama have mentioned that just before entering or going on the toilet, then a person should remove one's clothes. This is part of the haya and the chastity of a person's deen and religion, Islam, to avoid exposing oneself to others. Then we say that the right hand should not be used for touching or cleaning the private parts. Very important. For the right hand, we use for eating. For the right hand, we use for different positive and good things every time the right is used, and generally for, I won't say negative, but more the cleansing and so forth, we rather use the left hand. Before entering the lavatory, before entering the toilet, one should enter with the left foot and read the dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-khubuthi wal khaba'ith. A very, very effective and potent dua. Why? You're asking protection in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the devil, be it male or be it female. And obviously, if a person does not recite it, then the devil joins one in the toilet. And this is unnecessary for a person to do. With that, if a person somehow forgot, then there is no harm in reading it immediately in one's mind as one remembers, and thereafter continuing with the person's relieving oneself. Then we say here that one should not talk unless there is a dire need. Right? I want to just digress a moment with regards to this point. Many people have developed a very, very bad habit of taking one's cell phone into the bathroom, and then they spend a good amount of time unnecessarily in the bathroom. Now, from a Dini point of view, this is incorrect and impermissible. If you look at it from one angle, firstly, a person's cell phone, a person sometimes has Quran on the phone, sometimes Hadith on the phone. There were pious scholars in the past. Listen to this. There were scholars in the past, they would avoid taking a pen into the bathroom. Reason being, they would say that a pen is a means and a reason for knowledge. And how can I disrespect the pen by taking it into the bathroom? Now, you and I have developed some habits that we take the phone into the toilet, and there's a hadith on the phone. There's a Quranic ayat on the phone. Jazakallah, a person is saying, may Allah reward you. A dua on the phone. Allah's name is being mentioned. There were people of the past, they would not mention the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though referring to someone else whose name was Muhammad, without being in the state of wudu. And yet you and I, in the bathroom, are now using our phones and typing messages, receiving messages, Jazakallah, Inshallah, Quran on the phone. This is something a person should desist from. Number two, another problem by taking the phone, you are unnecessarily delaying and prolonging your stay in a filthy place or doing a filthy thing, which is not a good thing. You do your job quickly, wait obviously for your drops of urine to come out, cleanse yourself properly after defecating, and thereafter what you do is you leave the bathroom. So this is another very, very important thing. And number three, as we can see here, the ulama have mentioned that not to talk unless there is a need. Now, what need is there for a person to be chatting on WhatsApp or on any other social media or whatever reason on the internet in the bathroom? This should be avoided. Including that, one should not read things in the toilet, like taking magazines and so forth. Let's move on. It is disliked to face the Qibla, the time of relieving oneself, and to face one's back, even if the toilet is in one's building, is in a building. So to face the back towards Qibla as well as to face Qibla. Now, some people ask, I go to the bathroom in certain areas, maybe a hotel, maybe a mall, or maybe some place, and the toilet is not facing Qibla. Now, if a person is in such a situation, then the ulama have mentioned that just veer slightly to the left or to the right, turn this way, that way, so as not to disrespect the Qibla with the best of one's ability. But in one's own home, or if a person is installing a toilet, a person should take this into consideration. To urinate standing is disliked unless there is a valid reason. Again, a valid reason meaning that if you are going to sit, or even if you are going to squat, you are going to soil or dirty yourself further, or the place is so filthy that it's almost impossible to sit, then a person can do so standing. But again, a person should be very, very conscious that even if I'm doing it standing, I should not soil or dirty myself further, because this can jeopardize my wudu and jeopardize my salah. One is to exit the lavatory, that is the toilet, with the right leg, and then say the dua, Alhamdulillahi alladhi adhab anni al-adha wa afani. What an amazing dua. Just look at it. Even if you have to just ponder over this dua, It will be just something great and a great shukr and gratitude to Allah. All praise is due to Allah, that being who has removed from me discomfort and granted me ease and well-being. Imagine if you could not go to the toilet and you had this excruciating pain. Ask that person who is maybe constipated. Ask that person who doesn't have the ability to urinate, how difficult it is upon that person. Yet and those that are healthy, alhamdulillah, urinate and defecate often, and we don't think of Allah. This is something to take in consideration. The least we can do is that when we exit the bathroom, alhamdulillah alladhi adhaba anni al-adha wa afani, take into consideration the meaning that, oh Allah, we thank you so much for granting me the ability to relieve myself and to save me from extreme discomfort and grant me ease. Right. Now, once a person has cleansed oneself completely, now we need to perform salah, we need to maybe do some other ibadat. But even if we are not doing all of that, there is no harm in making wudu. There is no harm in making wudu. I had the opportunity of meeting some Arab brothers here in South Africa. And alhamdulillah, what amazing habits they had. Toilet, immediately after toilet, they would make wudu and 2 rakat salah. So obviously what we are trying to encourage, myself first and everyone, at least after going to the toilet, if we have the opportunity and ability, and now is a good time to bring these habits into our lives. Most of us are on lockdown in our homes. Toilet, wudu, even better 2 rakat salah. If not a problem. But these things are amazing. Always to be perpetually in the state of wudu. But anyway, be it as it may, a person needs to make wudu now. For a person to make salah or whatever reason, a person needs to make wudu. Now, what is the definition of wudu? Wudu is a type of ritual cleansing that is required to perform either salah, salatul janaza, sajda tilawa, tawaf, or to touch the Holy Quran or a verse of the Quran. Now, this is when wudu is necessary, is wajib. When to do these things, that is salah, sajda tilawat, salatul janaza, tawaf, touching the Holy Quran or a verse of the Quran. Which means you don't have to be in a state of wudu to recite the Quran or to touch any other books. But this doesn't mean you shouldn't. A person should always try to be in the state of wudu. Here's one of the many benefits of wudu, in addition to the ability to do the above mentioned acts of worship. Because wudu is now your key. Wudu is a key to salah. Salah is a key to Jannah. So it's a key to all of these activities above, or these worships above. Wudu is also a means of forgiveness of one's sins committed using the limbs and organs that were washed in wudu. We learn from the hadith, for example, when a person washes the face with the last drop, its sins falls off the face. With the last drop, the sins of the hands fall off, the sins of the mouth, etc., the sins of the feet. So like this, wudu is a very, very potent act of worship, and obviously we need to treat it thus also. Now, what are the compulsory acts of wudu? Now, before we even go into the compulsory acts of wudu, I would like to also indicate something. When a person learns in deen or in fiqh, this is fard, this is wajib, this is sunnah, this is mustahab, etc. Yes, that is correct, and a person should learn these terminologies and what is fard, wajib, etc., sunnah, and so forth. However, what a person should always remember, I'm not saying change the juristic reading, the juristic labeling of things, but treat everything like almost compulsory on yourself. Why so that you can inculcate this in your lives? Don't stick to the fara'id only, because if a person sticks to fara'id, there's a chance that a person may slip. But if a person does over and above the fara'id, and if a person slips with the mustahabbat or the nafal or the sunnah, meaning occasionally forgets and so forth, the harm is not great. So therefore, when we talk of fara'id, don't stick to it unless in dire straits or dire need. Rather, try your level best to do everything in the best way possible, how Rasulullah ﷺ did it. And We learn the faraid for obviously extra cautious or extra caution. We learn the faraid to know that it's fard for certain situations, circumstances. But on the whole, try your level best to do everything the best way possible. Faraid, wajibat, sunnah, mustahab, nafal. How my Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did it, how Sahaba radiallahu anhu did it, that's how I'm going to do it. Anyway, let's just go through the faraid of salah, of wudu rather. Wash the entire face from the hairline to the bottom of the chin and from one earlobe to the other earlobe. Now again, from the hairline means that from where the hair starts on top, on the forehead. Now for a person that may be bald, then obviously where the hairline would have been prior to that person losing his or her hair for that matter. From one earlobe to the other. Very important also to remember that males that have beards, the place from the earlobe to your beard, there is a piece of skin. There also needs to be washed. Why? It forms part of the face. Sometimes we are so in a rush and we are so negligent, we sometimes leave that. Also, when we wake up sometimes we find a small secretion, on the corner of the eyes. These things all need to be cleaned and washed nicely. Wudu is an ibadah. Let's not rush into it. We're not saying waste water, but at the same time, let's not rush. Let's do it properly, as we are going to mention the sunnah method. But let's do it nicely. Let's do it properly. So we're performing a good wudu, and by performing the good wudu, we are going to get ready for a good proper salah, inshallah. Moving on. Wash the hands and arms, including the elbows. Wash the hands and arms, including the elbows. Now, this is also very, very important. Sometimes we are a bit negligent when it comes to washing the hands. Maybe the elbows are missed out. Maybe a part of skin is missed out. As we are going to mention, you will see that not a single hair should be left dry for those portions or those organs or limbs that need to be washed. Right? So take great caution and cognizance. So some people feel that, no, let's wash it once quickly, I'm getting the faraid done. No, this is wudu, this is ibadah, do it properly. Right? Wipe the quarter of the head with wet hands. Obviously, this is according to the view of the Hanafi school of thought, that a quarter of the head is minimum. There are different views with regards to the different scholars of different madhab, that if you follow another madhab, you would have to check. But again, as you are going to see, when we are doing the sunnah method, it will take into consideration almost all the madhab, inshallah. Then wash the feet, including the ankles. Just a point to take note of, that if a person washed one's hands, including the elbows, then it is preferred to take new water. One should take new water and then make masa over the head. That is wiping over the head, right? And then again, if a person after making masa over the head, it is necessary to take new water to wash the feet, which is also a very, very important thing to do, as we're going to also mention when we come to wiping over socks. What are the conditions, some conditions for the validity of wudu? Pure water is to reach the complete outer skin of parts that are compulsory to wash. Yes, I did allude to this, that a person needs to use pure, clean water to wash every part of skin, every limb, every area needs to be washed. If one hair is to be left dry, 1 cubic centimeter or cubic millimeter has to be left dry. Yes, it sounds pedantic, it sounds technical, but this is the hukam, this is the rule, that if just a small area is left unwashed, then wudu is incomplete. If the wudu is incomplete, then salah is incomplete. And if the salah is incomplete, it puts a taint on a person's belief. Thus, a person needs to take this into consideration. The things that are incompatible with wudu or that nullify the wudu must cease before commencing wudu, such as menstrual periods, postnatal bleeding, and minor ritual impurities. For example, if there is urine or if there is blood, if there is urine or if there is blood or bleeding that is continuously coming out, then a person needs to make sure that is ceased, that is stopped completely before a person makes wudu. And that we have mentioned already in our introduction to istinja also. So this is something very, very important. Now this third one is also something people are not very cognizant of. Remove anything from the skin that prevents water from reaching the body, such as wax or fatty grease, nail polish for that matter, paint, glue, etc. What this means is that anything that is going to form a barrier between water reaching the skin, then this should be removed. So if a person is painting and a person, a child is using, or a person using Tapex for that matter, it falls on the skin, some wax, candle wax, dough for that matter, these things need to be cleaned, glue, because it's forming a barrier. And if it is forming a barrier, then what is going to happen is that water is not going to reach that area. And if water is not going to reach that area, what is going to happen is that wudu is not going to be correct, as we mentioned. And if that wudu is not going to be correct, then that person's salah is going to be problematic. Therefore, these things need to be taken into consideration. What is the sunnah method of wudu? Recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim or Bismillah walhamdulillah prior to performing wudu. We learn from the hadith that person who recites Bismillah walhamdulillah before performing wudu, the angels will pray for that person until that wudu breaks. Amazing. That person who recites Bismillah walhamdulillah prior to wudu, the angels pray for such a person until that wudu breaks. Thus, a person should keep these things and see how easy deen is. See how much thawab Allah wants to give us just for a little effort from our side. Then wash the hands thrice. Obviously, a great benefit in this, that if your hands were dirty, likewise, if you went to the get some essentials and maybe you had some infections on you, all of these things have been taught to us in deen. Wash your hands thrice before you touch your face also. Clean it. So these are amazing things that Rasulullah taught us 1400 years ago. Use the miswak. Now this is also amazing. We learn also from the hadith, that person who uses the miswak for that wudu that he's going to perform salah, what is the purpose of the hadith? That salah also, the reward is multiplied 70 times. 70 times, right? With that, we learn the miswak is mathharatul lil-fam wa mardatul lil-rabb. It is a purification for the mouth, and what it does is it gains the pleasure of Allah. So imagine by using the miswak, you are getting something that is greater than paradise, which is the pleasure of Allah. So let's inculcate these things in our life. If a person does not have a miswak, before we go on to the next one, then use the index finger with the intention that I do not have a miswak, so at least I'm using the substitute, which is the index finger, to clean the mouth, or the teeth for that matter. Then gargle the mouth thrice. Gargle the mouth thrice. Then pass water into the nose and clean using the thumb and the small finger of the left hand thrice. So you pass water thrice and clean thrice using the left hand. Moving on. Wash the entire face thrice. Now again, as we said, it's fard to wash the entire face once. However, to wash the entire face thrice is sunnah, but this will assist in aid one in attaining the fard. Why? Because that person has washed thrice, so most likely that person would have reached wherever that person would have liked to, or whatever should have been washed. Then pass the fingers through the beard, meaning pass wet fingers through the beard that is from the bottom coming up. So you make your hands like in a dua manner, right? For males who have beards, then make your hands in like a dua manner and pass it from the bottom coming out through your beard. This is also sunnah and important when washing the face. Then wash the hands and arms, including the elbows. Obviously, starting with the right, from the tip of the fingers, right up to including the elbows, thrice. Also, this is important to remember. Yes, we have learned that to pass the fingers of one hand through the fingers of the other hand, that's khilal. Khilal. To pass the fingers, we've learned in the past that it is one should do it after making masa of the head. But the fuqaha have written that the preferred time to do it is to do it when washing the hands or just after washing the hands. Why? Khilal is a takmila, it's a takmil, it's a completion or a perfection of washing the hands. So the time to do it is at the time you wash the hands. So therefore, wash the arms actually, right? The entire hands with the arms. So while washing the hands, straight after washing the hands and arms, a person should then make khilal, that is passing the right hand through the left fingers, left hand through the right fingers, and so forth, to make sure that everything is washed. Again, I cannot reiterate how important it is for a person to wash up to and including the elbows. Up to and including the elbows. Because sometimes you would see, if you look in the mirror, you put your hand and you look at your elbows, there's a piece that can be left dry if a person is not conscious. Remember, it's an ibadah. Be conscious and do it properly. You will also feel a difference and you'll be ready for salah, inshallah. Wipe the entire head, right? We're talking of making mas'ala or wiping the entire head and the ears and the nape with wet hands once, right? So you must have learned the method that placing the hands or the three fingers at the top of the head, going right to the back, then coming back with the palms, and then with the index finger in the ears and the thumb around the ears. These are all part of the sunnah of making masa and wiping over the head. And then with the back of the hands, you make masa of the nape, which is the back of the neck, right? Then wash the feet, including the ankles, once using the left hand. Yes, this is the preferred method, but you can use the right hand, no problem. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in hadith, "Wailun lil a'qab bin an-nar," that the heels will be a means for taking a person to Jahannam. So destruction be upon those heels. Right? This is the purport of the hadith. That destruction be upon those heels that will take a person into Jahannam. Heels of the foot. How can a heel take you to Jahannam? When you do not wash that heel properly, when you are making wudu, your wudu would be incomplete. Thus, it's a problem and causes a taint on your entire acts of ibadat. Therefore, again, wash the feet properly. With that, pass a finger through the toes to ensure that water has reached everywhere. And again, I cannot reiterate more the importance of making sure you wash the heels up to and including the ankles, not less than that. And this, if done thrice properly, a person would have washed everything nicely, inshallah. So that is a complete wudu. These are just some more added benefits to your wudu. It is obligatory to wash the visible part of a thick beard. So you get two types of beards generally. You get a thick, dense beard, and you get a thin, sparse beard. If you get a thick, dense beard, then the outer part needs to get wet. Basically, what falls on the circumference of the face will be, treated as the face. As a result, that needs to be washed correctly or fully, completely. And over and above that, passing the wet finger will be sufficient if it's a thick beard. However, if it is a thin beard or a sparse beard, then it is obligatory for water to reach the face, not just the hair, but the skin on the beard, rather the skin wherein the beard is on. So the water must reach the skin. So this will appear to those who do not have beards or those who have very thin beards. Water must reach the skin under it. If the fingers are tightly held together in a manner that prevents water from flowing between them, or the fingernails have grown over the fingertips and prevent water from reaching the tips, or if there is something that prevents water from the skin, such as dough, it becomes obligatory to wash it after removing the obstruction. So here it is given just few, let's say, examples or scenarios. In a nutshell, if anything is preventing water from reaching the skin, be it dough, be it a person having a ring for that matter, and that ring is tight on the finger, then a person needs to move those things or remove it so water gets under it. Very, very important. Sometimes we are but negligent when it comes to those aspects. These things need to be taken into consideration. Likewise, it's not healthy, or as well as it is not part of deen, but some females like to grow their fingernails a bit long. This is a problem also. It can jeopardize your wudu if it grows in such a way that it covers the skin there under. Therefore, it is important to make sure that these things are removed. It's important to make sure that these things are removed. With that, it is necessary to move around a tight ring. We mentioned that also. One is not required to repeat the wiping on the place of the hair after it has been shaved. And neither is one required to repeat the washing after cutting his or her nails or mustache. So basically what happened is you made wudu and you washed your hands and so forth, and then you cut your nails, or you shaved your mustache, or maybe you trimmed a bit of hair here and there. You don't have to re-wash it afterwards because you've already washed that area. Certain things that are disliked in wudu. Firstly, to waste water. Generally, one wastes water in few ways. Number one, a person making wudu but sitting and chatting or talking to someone else. Or number two, the tap is open full blast. Number three, you waste water by washing a place 6-7 times. This is unnecessary. Once you are certain that the place is washed with a minimum of 3 times, yes, maybe if it is not washed, then you can go more than 3. There's no harm in it. But to unnecessarily just wash, or to waste water, this is makruh, it's disliked. And why would you want to bring something disliked in an ibadah? Why would you want to bring something disliked in an ibadah? Then to use very little water. Now you can't be so stingy also in using the water that using so little water that you somehow don't even complete your washing correctly. This is also makruh. So use sufficient water, we say. To slap the face, or to slap water on the face, okay, this is written in the books. Person should not also become over enthusiastic in making wudu, that a person starts slapping oneself and so forth. To make general conversation. Now this is very important, especially in our wudu khanas or our ablution blocks in our masajid. What happens is that a person, they just talk, the tap is running. Remember, wudu is an ibadah. Just like how you don't talk in salah. We're not saying it's not allowed to talk in wudu, but it's disliked. Just like how you are preparing for salah, sit, think what I'm doing. I'm ritually, spiritually purifying myself for salah. So I'm going to do so in the best way, and I'm not going to be discussing unnecessary things and so forth. To seek assistance from others without the reason, again, for someone to pour water for you, that's not a harm. But someone to wash your limbs for you, and if you have no need for that, that's something that is makruh, but highly unlikely situation. To wipe the head 3 times using new water each time. Yes, we said masa is once is sufficient. What nullifies the wudu? Right. Anything that exits from the front and back passages nullify the wudu. Kullu ma kharaja min as-sabilayn. Anything that comes out from the front and back passages nullify the wudu. Anything for that matter. Obviously, we are going to discuss what brings ghusl necessary upon you. So whether it's urine, whether it's stool, sometimes blood may come out. Sometimes also what we refer to as pre-seminal fluid that also may exit. All of these things necessitate wudu. The flowing of an impurity such as blood or pus from any part of the body. So if a person gets cut, if a person maybe has an infection in the ear or nose or whatever for that matter, and blood or pus flow from it, that breaks the wudu. Vomiting a mouthful of food and water, or blood clots or bile, all of these things will be regarded as a breaker of wudu. And remember, the vomit that comes out is also impure. So just a side note, that even if a child, baby we talk here, has to vomit a mouthful, that vomit is now impure, so one needs to be cognizant of that also. To sleep in such a way that one's posterior buttocks are not firmly set on the ground. Yes, so to lie down sleeping, or to sleep in such a way that a person is not firm on the ground, that will break the wudu. To faint or temporary insanity or drunkenness, all of these things will break the wudu. If a mature conscious person laughs loudly during salah. Firstly, it's incorrect to laugh loud during salah, because this will go against the grain of salah. But if perchance it happens, Allah forbid, then this will break the salah and the wudu. We're going to run quickly through some du'as of wudu. Bismillah walhamdulillah, we did mention, that is prior to wudu, when washing the hands, amazing dua. Allah maghfirli dhanbi. Allah, forgive my sins. وَوَسِّعْلِي فِي دَارِي. And Ya Allah, widen my home for me. Ya Allah, make my home sufficient for me. Ya Allah, make my home spacious for me. Ya Allah, make my home such that I'm happy in it. وَبَارِكْ لِي فِي رِزْقِي. Ya Allah, grant me barakah, grant me blessings, grant me an increase, grant me benefit in my sustenance. What amazing dua. If a person reads it, Allah accepts it. Even in today's time, that's all you need nowadays, is these three things. Or these three things. Then after completing the wudu, Ashhadu an la ilaha illa Ashhadu Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, you recite the second kalima, and Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin. Oh Allah, make me amongst those who repent often. Waj'alni min al-mutatahhirin, and make me amongst those who are very conscious of their purity. Waj'alni min ibadika as-salihin, you can add that also, and make me from the pious servants. And if Allah accepts this dua, what does it mean? It ties up to the start that I mentioned. Allah loves those who are tawwabin, and Allah loves those who are mutatahhirin. Meaning Allah loves those that are repentant, and Allah loves those that are extremely pure and conscious of their purity. Thus, if you make this dua and you are conscious of it, you will become the beloveds of Allah, inshallah. Now we're talking of masa on leather socks, right? Time is running out, but we can just run through it quickly. Just give us maybe a 5-second or 10-second breather. Right, making masa on leather socks. Making masa on leather socks. Now, some people are unaware of this, but this is we can say an ease or a concession or something brought for our deen to make life easier for us, or for whatever reason possible, it's there for our benefit. Now, we're calling it leather socks, or we can call it khuf. If it fits the criteria which we are going to mention, but you don't have to be an alim or a mufti to decide. Go to the ulama and the fuqaha that you have trust in and ask them, will this sock, or will this moza, or will this leather sock, or in simple Arabic terminology, will this khuf be correct for me for wiping or not? And if they approve, then you use it. If they disapprove, then don't use it. But these are just some criteria. But how does one use it firstly? Firstly, let's assume that a sock fits the criteria. Now, what you do is you make a full wudu, very important, and you wash your feet. Now that you have washed your feet, then what will happen is that you can now make masa. How you do that, we're going to mention it just now. Let's quickly run through now some conditions when it comes to the socks itself. They must cover the feet up to and including the ankles. So let's assume we got like this very, very nice leather sock that fulfills all the criteria, but it's like a secret sock style. It doesn't come up to the ankle. It's not sufficient. You cannot use it. One must be able to continuously walk in them for 3 shar'i mile, which is about 5.5 kilometers. Again, this has been tested by fuqaha. So certain socks fulfill the criteria, certain don't. Let's ask them. They've made life easy for us. Let's not become too pious and too knowledgeable over and above our intelligence. Right. Each khuf must be free from a tear the size equivalent to 3 times the smallest toes. So 3 times the last 3 toes that a person, the whole, there should not be a hole or a cut or a tear. So let's say around 3 centimeters. If the tear is around 3 centimeters or more, then a person cannot make masa on it. If there is less than that, meaning a small little pinhole or a small little hole, then a person can still use that for making masa. The next point, they must hold onto the feet without tying. Like this does not mean you're elastic on a sock. No, this means actually you want to put a packet over your foot. Now it won't stay on unless you fasten it on top. So this is highly unlikely situation, right? And they must prevent water from reaching the skin. So we're not saying it must be totally waterproof, but it must be kind of water resistant. So these are just some conditions of the socks that you can find, or the khuf or the leather socks where you can make masa. It is obligatory to wipe the area equivalent to the 3 smallest fingers of the hand over the top part of each foot. Again, very important. I mentioned early on that after a person make masa of his or her head, and a person is now wiping on the leather socks or on the khuf, a person must take new water. New water meaning you must put your hand under the tap and rinse your hand out first, and thereafter you wipe the khuf. You cannot use the water or the remains of the water after you had made masa on the head. That will not be correct. Your wiping will not be correct. Your wudu will not be correct. Right? And minimum of the amount of 3 fingers of the top part of the foot. However, it is sunnah to begin the wiping from the toes of the feet up to the shin. So you start from the toes and you go up. You start from the toes and you go up towards the shins. And this will be the sunnah method. Right? Wudu, with regards to the leather socks, continuing, permissible to make masa on leather socks after washing the feet in wudu. So now, let's say you made wudu. So you made a full wudu, you washed your hands, your face, hands, masa, feet, all the sunnah, etc. Then you put on your leather socks. Now, obviously your wudu is intact. Now your wudu broke with your socks on. Right. Now you need to make wudu again. You simply go, you start a new wudu, wash everything, wash face, hands, make masa of the head. Then you don't need to wash your feet. You simply take your wet hands and you wipe it over the top of your socks, and there your wudu is complete. And you can continue to do so for the next 24 hours if you are a resident. From the time your wudu broke, right up till the next day, the same time. However, generally people don't leave their socks on so long. But these are just concessions given and allowances given. Number 2, if you're musafir, once that wudu broke, you got 72 hours of wiping as long as you did not remove the sock. Right, feet must be washed again. This means that if the socks are now removed and you are in the state of wudu, you have to wash the feet. You cannot remove the sock and still be in the state of the same wudu unless you have washed the feet. With that, if the time expires, meaning the 24 hours expire, if the 24 hours expire, then you cannot continue to wiping over the socks. If a major part of the foot gets wet, so let's assume somehow from the top water got in, or somehow from the small little hole that you may have had, water seeped through and it wet more than half the foot. That is a major part of one foot, that you can no longer wipe on that foot. Right. Now, what if you have an injury? What if you have an injury? Right, we'll have to run through this. Right, time is almost up. All right, apologies for that, but these are very important things that I felt we have to discuss. But let's move quickly now. It is permissible to make masa over an injury or bandage, provided that washing the affected area will cause harm or aggravate the injury. Right? If masa on an injury could cause harm then the affected part can be completely omitted from the wudu. Advice must be ordinarily be sought from a competent, pious Muslim doctor as far as possible. In simple terms, I have an injury or person have an injury, Allah forbid. But if a person has an injury, if a person is going to wash it, it's going to exacerbate, it's going to get worse, then a person puts a bandage over it. Then a person should wash all around the bandage and wipe over the bandage. But if a person wipes over that bandage, it's going to exacerbate or cause a bigger problem, then a person can leave it out. Again, seek advice from the ulama. Let's quickly run through ghusl and then we can see where we can terminate, inshallah. Number one, what necessitates ghusl? Very important to know these aspects. Remember, every time you feel dirty doesn't mean ghusl is wajib. I'm not saying you mustn't be clean. I'm not saying you mustn't take a bath. What I'm saying is that sometimes people say they're feeling dirty and then they need a bath. But now there's no facilities to take a bath. So what they do is they just unnecessarily miss the salah, which is totally incorrect and haram. A person should not do so. If a person is not in these situations, then a person must make, can make wudu and so forth. Other than that, a person needs to make ghusl, as we're going to mention. These aspects are obviously necessary ghusl. Number one, a discharge of sperm. A discharge of sperm. Now here we're talking of proper semen or sperm that comes out generally with force. If this happens, then this will necessitate a ghusl. Whether a person had a dream, whether a person had relations, or whatever for that matter. Also, very important, if a person had discharged sperm, prior ejaculated sperm, as a result, a person should try to go to toilet or urinate afterwards to make sure the sperm had come out. Or if there remains and a person had not done sufficient to take the sperm out. And if a person has to make a ghusl and then sperm comes out afterwards, then this can necessitate another ghusl. Thus, the easiest thing to do is to urinate after the discharge, and this will leave no doubt. And if after that something comes out, this will not necessitate a new ghusl. Intercourse. If a person has intercourse, this will necessitate ghusl. The termination of hayd generally will necessitate ghusl. Termination of nifas, which is postnatal bleeding, this will also necessitate ghusl. Embracing Islam whilst any of the above occurring after the most recent full bath. Basically, most of the people who accepted Islam would be necessitate ghusl would be necessary for such people. Thus, a person needs to make ghusl upon accepting Islam generally. Upon death, obviously, this will become fard kifaya, meaning it will become necessary upon the community or some people in the community to wash a person for after he had passed on or she had passed on. How does one make ghusl? The compulsory acts of ghusl. Number one, to gargle them out. That's very, very important. Why? Because some people are not cognizant of this. Yes, we go and we stand 10 minutes, 15 minutes in the shower. I'm not saying it's right. Yes, we stand nice in the shower, but the person does not gargle the mouth. The person does not put water into the nose. That ghusl is not correct. If that ghusl is not correct, that person cannot, and I repeat, that person, his salah or her salah is not correct. Thus, a person should be very, very careful when it comes to ghusl. Gargle the mouth. Make this a habit. Whether you are making a necessary ghusl or whether you are making a sunnah or general ghusl, just make it your habit. Gargle your mouth, pass water into the nose. Up to what extent one needs to pass water into the nose? If you take your finger, try this exercise with me. Put it on your nose. Put your finger into your nose until you feel the soft part of your nose, and then it starts with the bone. So from the start of your nostril or inside the nostril right up till the bone, all that needs to be wet. So this generally gets sorted out by putting water into the nose and cleaning with the fingers. As we're learning now, the doctors are telling us in this time of this virus, it is even better to sniff in the water. And how great this is if a person obviously had done it all his life or her life, because this is path of a better way of ensuring complete water entering to the nose. Very, very important. The third one is to make sure that the entire body gets wet, not leaving the slightest area of the skin or the hair dry. Every area, every nook, every cranny, every area needs to get wet. Every fold, a person needs to make sure that everything gets wet. The Sunnah method, we quickly run through it. Wash the hands, wash away any impurities from the body. Very, very important. So that is why we will start off with that. Then wash the private organs, because generally, it would be soiled, or maybe there will be some dirt if the person is making a fard ghusl. Right? Time is almost up. I beg your indulgence, just another few more minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. If I can just quickly go through, so I would leave this place or leave this discussion in a way that I have delivered what I have desired. My sincere apologies for taking extra time, but there was quite a bit of things to discuss, and very, very important and pertinent things. So just bear with me, inshallah, for another few minutes, about 10 minutes or so, inshallah. Wash the private organs, make a sunnah wudu, pour water over the entire body 3 times. That is from first the middle, then the right, then the left. However, some ulama have mentioned, and listen carefully, if a person merely stands under the shower, obviously washes the nose, right, the gargles the mouth, and stands under the shower, making sure all of these are washed, the sunnah would be fulfilled. Some important points to mention. Number one, wash inside the navel. Sometimes these places are left dry. If it's left dry, ghusl is incorrect. Every part of the body needs to be wet, including every strand of hair. Very, very important. For males who have beards, under the skin of the beard, whether you have a thick beard, a thin beard, this is not wudu, this is ghusl. For females, the water must reach the root of your hair, like this. Any area that is closed or tight, open area, make sure the water reaches in between. Under the armpits, wash under the knees. These are just some examples, random examples. Piercings or holes, water must get into it if it is not completely sealed. Why? Because these things need to be washed. Wash the skin underneath the beard, as I mentioned, the moustache, the eyebrows, etc. Anything that prevents water from touching the body or hair will render the ghusl incomplete. Where there is nail polish, hair gel that forms a coating, glue, paint, grease, fat, etc. If it is a barrier, your water is not touching your skin, thus your ghusl is incomplete. If your ghusl is incomplete, what is going to happen is you are not in ritual purity. You can't make namaz. If you make your salah is not correct. There's one thing that I should mention, is not mentioned here, that if water puddles at the feet, then it is necessary to re-wash the feet after the bath. So sometimes water collects at the feet, one should then wash the feet again, which is very, very important. If it doesn't puddle, then it's not a problem. Cleansing physical impurities, right? I know I'm going over time, but we'll quickly run through this, inshallah. Cleansing physical impurities. Basically, if there are some impurities basically messed on your clothes or on your body, or maybe on a floor, on a carpet, etc. How does one cleanse? Because these are physical impurities. Now again, sometimes if a physical impurity messes on you, this doesn't necessarily mean you need to make wudu or ghusl. However, one needs to wash off that physical impurity or cleanse oneself. Physical impurities are of 2 categories. The lighter type, which is which is basically the urine of herbivores like sheep and so forth, as well as stool of carnivorous birds, or your general birds that you have, you know. Obviously the stool of a duck and a chicken is different, right? But these things are light impurities. One doesn't generally pass this too often, right? So the object or limb will be considered impure only if a quarter of the entire limb or the quarter of the entire area is messed, which is highly unlikely for this to happen on a person. The heavy type, on the other hand, right? Basically, this includes your urine, your stool, your blood, the vomit, a mouthful, the urine of animals, the stool of animals in general, right? the object or limb will be considered impure if more than a large coin that is liquid form or more than 4 grams solid form. So simply take about a 4 centimeter diameter, about a 4-5 centimeter diameter. If that is messed, or if small amounts that add up to that amount, then that area is impure. As a result, a person needs to wash that physical impurity off. A person needs to wash that physical impurity off. Very, very important. However, if less than that, then that is overlooked. It's overlooked. So let's say you're in the state of wudu. Let's say you've made ghusl. But if your clothes have an impurity so big, like blood has messed on your clothes, urine or stool, or on your body, then you cannot perform salah with it. That needs to be clean. How does one cleanse it? Basically, the surfaces can be of two types. Right? If the impurity is solid form and the surface itself is let's say permeable or absorbent or porous, then wash the surface thoroughly until it's cleansed. So if some blood messed on your clothes, then wash it thoroughly until you cannot see the blood anymore. However, if perchance you wash it so many times and you still see a faint sign of it, there's no harm in that. But until their body is removed, whether you washed it once, whether you washed it 30 times, a person needs to completely wash it. It is an absorbent substance. And if it is a thick impurity that has a body, however, if the impurity is in the liquid form, then wash the surface thrice thoroughly, wringing it after each time. So let's say, for example, if urine messed on your clothes, then you have to wash that once, wring it twice, wring it thrice, wring it. Many people ask the question about our washing machines. Generally, the washing machines do these activities for us. So alhamdulillah, it suffices. Generally, it does do so. Again, find out from your mufti if your make of washing machine, it does the trick, but generally it does sort it out. With that, some people ask with regards to a cloth or let's say a carpet. Ulama have mentioned you wash it once properly, let it dry twice and thrice, let it dry after each time. Basically, what you're trying to do, you are removing the impurity. Until you are happy that the impurity is removed, this will be sufficient. If it's a non-absorbent surface, let's say a tiles, let's say the toilet seat for that matter, let's say anything for that matter that's non-absorbent, basically wipe it until no trace remains. So this is very, very easy for us to remember. Right? Time is up. This is a subject on tayammum. If Mawlana Safwan can just grant me permission to quickly run through it, or should we rather take questions and answers and leave this section off?
We can complete it in the next 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to run through tayammum. Again, tayammum is not a common occurrence, as we know, and it would only be come into play as a substitute for wudu or ghusl in these conditions. Number one, if water is unavailable in the vicinity, right? So we're looking at around maybe a few kilometer radius, and a person cannot find water whatsoever, then a person can then make tayammum. We're going to mention how. Or if performing wudu or ghusl is not possible, for example, a person is stuck in the hospital bed and a person cannot get off, this doesn't mean that that person mustn't read salah. If a person cannot get assistance, maybe from family members or maybe from the nurse or whatever, to make wudu, yes, we can take a simple bucket there and make wudu. If still a person cannot do so, then make tayammum. The reason or the substitutes are there, the facilities are there for us indeed. And make that salah. Don't say, no, I'm feeling dirty or I can't move my hands. Then make tayammum. If you can't do it, get assistance from someone else. The point here is to always fulfill your ritual purities so that you can fulfill your ibadah. If performing wudu or ghusl can cause severe illness or aggravate a prevalent condition or lead to death. So for example, a person is in the North Pole and the temperature is -20 or -30 and the only water available is freezing cold water. If a person will make with water wudu with it, a person will lose a limb or lose his or her life, then a person can make tayammum. The method of tayammum, number one, very, very important to make intention. And make intention for what you're making tayammum. I'm making intention for the salah that I'm going to perform. Number 2, strike an earthen substance such as sand, clay, baked bricks, etc. with both the hands. Number 3, shake off the excess dust or soil and then wipe the hands over the entire face. Just like how you make in wudu. You do the exact thing in tayammum. Then strike the earthen substance or the earthen pot or the brick for that matter, the dust or the sand, etc. with both the hands one more time and then wipe the entire right hand and arm, including the elbows, basically. So you wipe the entire right hand and arm, including the elbows, using the left hand. And then you do the same thing using the right hand. Again, making sure you wipe completely and no area has been left unwiped. Jazakallah khair for listening. Are there any questions? Now we can take questions for a few minutes. My apologies for going a few minutes over time, but do bear in mind that we did start also a few minutes late. Jazakallah khair for listening. Any questions? Maybe pose the question and I'll try and answer it if I cannot.
There's one question that was posed by a participant. That is, if sperm is ejaculated not due to any sexual arousal, etc. So if a person, for example, is very ill and illness leads to sexual.
Right. You breaking up?
Or, for example, if a person falls hard on his back and sperm is discharged, will that necessitate also?
So you see, very important to remember that if a person ejaculates with force, and generally that occurs due to arousal, that will necessitate ghusl. However, if a little bit of pre-seminal fluid has to come out, this will not necessitate ghusl, but it will necessitate wudu.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan. Just as a point to note for our participants, what area of tahara was not covered in this particular presentation due to the time restrictions was the laws relating to hayd and nifas for females. So inshallah, we will try and have a female alima to present that to us in the near future. But we seek your forgiveness for not having included it in this particular presentation. If you have any further questions, please feel free to either raise your hand or pose it in the Q&A box, or else we can take it at some other time, inshallah, through our communication channels. We would like to, from the TNPro team, I would like to thank Mawlana Ahmad for having taken out his time in preparing for this presentation, as well as taking out his time to present it to us, and lastly, presenting it in this format where we kind of squeezing all the details into, and a 1-hour session is also quite stressful. So we would like to extend our deepest gratitude and appreciation to him for allowing us to all benefit from his knowledge. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it and make it beneficial for all. Seeing that there are no questions, we will terminate now, inshallah. And we encourage you to... So I was just saying that
for giving me the opportunity to present. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all beneficial knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from every one of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it such that we are conscious of our duties towards Him, as well as our duties towards fellow mankind. And a part of the duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fulfilling a correct wudu, ghusl, or the correct salah. So like this was merely an introduction. This normally takes hours and days to study. So this should ignite the candle or the fire, or create thirst in a person to improve and increase in daily knowledge. Nothing is elementary or rudimentary for a person. Rather, a person should always desire to learn more and more about his or her deen, to perfect his or her deen. Most important, to perfect his or her worship, so that they can get a closer connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
There's one question that has been posed here. By pouring water over the body thrice during ghusl, must it be 3 separate times, or thrice over middle, thrice over right, and thrice over left?
So when pouring the body, water over the body. Now this generally would happen obviously when using a bucket or so, right? So therefore you would do it. So the question is basically thrice over. Just repeat the question. Sorry.
So 3 times. What does washing the body 3 times mean? Does it mean 3 times over the middle, over the right, and over the left? He just wants explanation on that.
Oh, okay.
So how is that?
You know what, I'm just a bit tied up with this. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe you can answer. I think it's 333, but I'm just
So,
I need confirmation.
So the body should be washed 3 times. 3 times water is poured over the right side of the body. So that would be your right arm and the right uh, part of your abdomen and your right leg. And then moving on to the center. Although in our context we generally use showers, so a lot more than just the one side would get washed. We're using a bucket and a jug, then obviously washing a lot less of the body at one particular time. So, but nonetheless, in keeping with the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we commence with the right side of the body and then, wash the entire right side by rubbing, etc., and then we would move on to the center and the left side. So when the water is running in the shower, so you would just stand under it for a few seconds on the right side and then move over. I think that would be closest in applying this particular law.
Anything else?
Seeing that there are no other questions, we will terminate now. Just a reminder to our participants and an extension of our gratitude to you as well for having taken out your time to attend this particular program. And you may be aware that this will be continuing until the 9th of May, inshallah, on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays at 11 a.m. We will be covering all the other pertinent topics related to the 5 pillars of Islam. So we encourage you to participate in all of them and also to share the message and the program with your family and friends so we can have many more people benefiting from it. And further to that, we also have a professionally Muslim webinar that is running uh, during the next 2 weeks. So this week, Monday and Wednesday, and the following week, Monday and Friday. And that program is also available on our Instagram page at Dean Pro SA. That has a completely separate registration to this particular 5 pillars course. So we encourage you to have a look at that and also benefit from those particular webinars, which also has senior ulama presenting. Okay, seeing that there are no further questions, we will terminate, inshallah, and we thank you all for joining this particular presentation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.